Now, the Three Martini Lunch with Greg Corombos and Jim Geraghty.
And welcome, everyone, to the Tuesday edition of the Three Martini Lunch, along with Jim Geraghty of National Review. I'm Greg Corombos of Radio America. It is a special holiday tomorrow, the 4th of July. We will not have a podcast today, so today we have 4 good stories for you. Good, 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 and good. What better way to head into America's birthday? Happy Independence Day Eve, everyone. We're sponsored today by Dollar Shave Club. Right now, for just $5, you can get the Dollar Shave Club Daily Essentials Starter Set. We'll talk more about that a little bit later in the podcast. Check it all out, though, at dollarshaveclub.com/martini. All right, Jim, on to our first good martini. This is courtesy of NBC News. A majority of Americans believe the Republican-led Senate should vote on President Donald Trump's Supreme Court nominee before the November midterm elections, undercutting the Democratic argument that it should be delayed until after the pivotal fall elections, according to a new NBC News SurveyMonkey poll. More than 6 in 10 Americans, or 62%, said Trump's nominee, who will be announced on Monday, should be confirmed or rejected before the elections, in which control of the House and Senate are at stake. About 3 in 10, or 33%, said the Senate should wait until after the elections, the poll found. Not surprisingly, it's split along party lines. 66% of Democrats and 60% of Republicans said Trump's nominee would be an important factor in their vote. Independents not as high at 46%. You've got 85% of Republicans who said the vote should happen before the elections, 61% of independents, but 55% of Democrats say that voting on a new justice should wait. So, Jim, Chuck Schumer's talking point did not work, it seems.
Yeah, and of course, I'm sure the Democrats are probably jumping up and down and screaming, but Merrick Garland, but Merrick Garland. Look, probably the strongest argument you can make about the way Mitch McConnell handled the Merrick Garland nomination is to say that, you don't necessarily have to approve of the guy, but you deserve a hearing. Well, there's nothing in the Constitution that requires it, but you can make that argument. If, the only way you might want to tweak the McConnell approach to it was to say, all right, we'll hold a vote on him and we'll reject him. And we'll just keep doing so until we get a nominee that we like. And our definition of a good nominee is probably going to be very different from President Barack Obama's. The argument of Chuck Schumer was basically to say, well, turnabout is fair play, and thus we should delay until after the midterm elections. Obviously, there's a difference in opinion about whether you should have a lame duck president nominating a Supreme Court justice or whether you should lame duck Congress should be the one doing the voting. The interesting possibility, of course, is that at this point, I don't think the Democrats are going to take control of the Senate. But stranger things have happened. It's only a 51-49 majority. If you ended up with a Democratic majority, then it's not unthinkable that you would have Democratic senators blocking not just whoever Trump names Monday, but conceivably any other Trump nominee for the remainder of his presidency until the Democrats lose control of the Senate. So not confirming this one, which we will probably learn Monday, kind of it opens the possibility of not having a Supreme Court justice for the better part of 2.5 years. That would be I think most people would say the possibility of 4-4 splits and things like that, would be a real wrench in the gears of American democracy. So I think most Americans have the attitude of you put forth a judge, you do the hearings, you see if they're good or not, and you vote on them. And that's probably what's going to happen here. And we will see how things shake out. But my suspicion is that the Democrats will complain about this, whine about this. But in the end, most of the public will say, look, there's an opening. Put forth the nomination, hold the hearings, and then vote on it. If you don't like them, fine. Or maybe you don't like her, fine. But get the process started and we want 9 Supreme Court justices. And also, by the way, revealing in that poll, the public believes that there should be 9 Supreme Court justices, doesn't like court packing. So the Democrat idea, well, someday we'll be back in charge and we'll just put in another 9 or 10 justices is not something they should believe will have a great deal of public support.
Yeah, good point. Good news in that poll as well. And see, Cocaine Mitch is slick here because in addition to the fact that he's dismissing Schumer now, in his rebuttal, I think he was on Shannon Bremer, one of the other Fox shows, he said the difference, of course, is that it was a presidential election year and Barack Obama was a lame duck president. So he's essentially setting the stage here for, if there's a vacancy in 2020, Trump's not a lame duck because he could win re-election. And so therefore that wouldn't be necessary to delay the vote. I'm guessing that is what he's setting the ground for, but we'll see.
I mean, let's keep this in mind, though, Greg. This really could cause problems for the administration in like January 2024.
Right.
I mean, by that point, Trump will probably be wanting to either nominate his 7th, 8th, maybe even 9th Supreme Court justice, get a full set. Actually, we don't, probably not that many, but 4 is not unthinkable, and maybe even 5. So, but I think the argument of don't allow lame duck presidents to nominate justices is a little more compelling than the don't let presidents that we don't like nominate Supreme Court justices, which is what the Democratic position is rapidly evolving into.
Important distinction, yes. All right, let's move on to our second good martini. This comes from the New York Times and overseas in Germany. Chancellor Angela Merkel, who staked her legacy on welcoming hundreds of thousands of migrants into Germany, agreed on Monday to build border camps for asylum seekers and to tighten the border with Austria in a political deal to save her government. It was a spectacular turnabout for a leader who has been seen as the standard bearer of the liberal European order, but who has come under intense pressure at home from the far right and from conservatives in her governing coalition over her migration policy. So, Jim, it's not necessarily clear that she's realized her policy was a failure here. She's bowing probably more to political realities and trying to stay in power. But she's kind of the canary in the coal mine here when it comes to this thing, and she let in way too many people, and the impact on German culture has been pretty clear.
It's worth noting that of all the leaders in Europe, Angela Merkel probably was the one who was most adamant and vehement at what, some folks on the right would call an open borders policy. At the very least, a very welcoming perspective on refugees coming from really all over the world, but primarily driven by the Syrian civil war, starting in 2013 and kind of worsening year by year until towards the tail end of the Obama administration, beginning of the Trump administration. For perspective, and probably a lot of listeners recall this, you had more than 1 million migrants coming in per year, more than 1 million refugees a year. Germany is about a third of the population of the United States. That's just a lot. I mean, the U.S. takes in a much bigger country, we take 1 million legal immigrants into the country. We have a long tradition of this. Germany does not have a long tradition of welcoming immigrants. And in fact, it's not hard to find times when German culture was less than fully welcoming of people different from them. Modern Germany has attempted to be much more welcoming of immigrants, but you're always going to have, I think, some serious cultural friction when you're bringing in massive amounts of refugees, of migrants, of immigrants, however you want to characterize them. And almost every culture requires some assimilation. And particularly when you're bringing in folks from Syria, bringing in folks from Iraq, natural concerns about folks who may have had ties to Islamist groups, ties to terror groups, the folks who had gone to Syria to fight and then coming back. When you have an open borders policy, you have a very easy, when you basically are welcoming everybody to come in here, it's very easy for those folks with malicious intentions to slip through the cracks. And there was a fairly sizable amount of objection from the grassroots or from, common folk, however you want to, common Volk, I suppose you could say in Germany. And this sense that look, we're not equipped for this. This is more people coming in than we can handle. If they're coming here to stay, we need a way to turn them into citizens under the law and philosophy and way of living of Germany, not to come here and basically continue their entire way of they operated back in their home countries. We have a right to request that you assimilate to the way we live in Germany. This has not been Angela Merkel, and a lot of folks in German politics saw this as ipso facto xenophobia. Straight up, if you are saying that sort of thing, you're hateful, you're a bigot, and there's no place for that in this country. And that has not gone well for her. Now, it didn't do enough to keep her out of the election, but it clearly has caused a lot of tension within her coalition. Her making this concession is kind of is a de facto admission that her original approach can't work and doesn't work. It is kind of deeply frustrating that it took this point. It is worth noting that the refugee crisis from the Syrian civil war has mitigated somewhat. It's not like it's completely gone away, but the numbers are nowhere near what they used to be. We'll see how this shakes out. Still, I don't think they're quite out of the woods about the idea of political tensions within the Merkel, the coalition of different parties that is keeping Merkel in power. But I think it's safe to say that the center of gravity on immigration policy in Germany has changed. And with it, it's likely that the center of gravity is going to shift a lot. We're already hearing comments from Austria saying, look, we don't like the idea of you sending them back to our country. We're going to strengthen our border to keep them out of our country so they can't get into Germany. So my suspicion is that, whether you characterize this as nativist or anything like that, a policy that was almost built to enhance security risks instead of mitigate them is coming to an end, and probably the most stubborn advocate for this quasi-open borders policy is coming, slamming into a brick wall of reality. So my suspicion is that this is a further sign that the era of people transiting freely from one country to another with minimal background checks is coming to an end in Europe.
Yeah, that's not necessarily a bad thing at all. Jim, I know we're old, but do you remember back in the George W. Bush administration when we were really, really happy that Angela Merkel beat Gerhard Schroeder because we thought she was a big move to the right?
Well, in a little bit of ways she is. I mean, it's worth noting that ultimately a lot of that was built around Gerhard Schroeder and his vehement, some would say, kind of demagogic opposition to the Iraq War. Mm-hmm. I remember some of the re-election ads featuring U.S. flag-draped coffins, and a lot of us in the United States feel, no. You don't run ads like that in any country. You don't use the images of our fallen servicemen. We don't like it when politicians in our country use that kind of imagery. You don't get to do that, Germany. But obviously, look, there have been a lot of complications in U.S.-German relations over the years, most notably when it was alleged that the NSA had tapped Angela Merkel's phone. Germans were really up in arms about this, Greg, because, it's not like a German chancellor has ever caused problems for the United States of America.
Never. Wow. Jim, as we mentioned earlier, we're off tomorrow. It's the 4th of July. Happy Independence. America's going to be, 242 years old. It's also going to be really hot. So if you're heading out to a fireworks show or a parade or a picnic or whatever in Washington, Philadelphia, Boston, New York, it's going to be warm. It's going to be really warm. You're probably going to be sweating a lot, which means you need to smell good when you leave the house. And so just be thinking of other people when you do that. And so if you do ever shower or brush your teeth, or like to make your hair presentable, we've got good news for you. Dollar Shave Club has a lot of stuff to help you out. The Dollar Shave Club delivers everything you need to look, feel, and smell your best. It's got everything you need to get ready in the bathroom.
Dollar Shave Club delivers everything you need to look, feel, and smell your best at that backyard barbecue. Yes, there's going to be a lot of barbecue smells and maybe suntan lotion and other scents. But look, you don't want to come across as giving the wrong kind of odor on our nation's birthday. You name it. They have shampoo, conditioner, body wash, toothpaste, hair gel, and even a wipe that will leave your tush feeling tingly clean. I'm a big fan of their amber and lavender calming body cleanser. I've never smelled anything like it, and good luck finding a product as great as that at the store. All of Dollar Shave Club's products are made with top-shelf ingredients that won't break your budget. You will feel the difference, and shipping is included with your membership.
Yeah, they also make an amber and lavender soap bar, which I've used, and it's really, really great. So all sorts of quality products. And now there's a great way to try a bunch of Dollar Shave Club products for yourself. For just $5, you can get the Daily Essential Starter Set. It comes with body cleanser, the One Wipe Charlies. Yes, those are the amazing butt wipes. Their world-famous shave butter, and their best razor, the 6-Blade Executive. Keep the blades coming for just a few more bucks per month, and then add in shampoo, toothpaste, or anything else you need for the bathroom. Check it all out at dollarshaveclub.com/martini. One more time, dollarshaveclub.com/martini. All right, Jim, on to our third good martini, and we still have one to go after this. Wall Street Journal. European security services arrested 4 people, including an Iranian diplomat. Yes, an Iranian diplomat for allegedly planning to bomb an annual gathering of Iranian opposition groups outside Paris last Saturday, and are examining whether Tehran actually ordered the attempted attack. Belgian police on Saturday arrested a husband and wife of Iranian origin after stopping their vehicle in Brussels, authorities said Monday. In the Mercedes, police said they found an ignition device and 500 grams of TATP, a homemade explosive. German police arrested a 46-year-old diplomat at the Iranian embassy in Austria, whom police described as a contact person for the couple. And French police arrested a 54-year-old described as an accomplice. Authorities said they had monitored communications among the individuals. A Belgian law enforcement official said investigators suspect the couple took orders from the Iranian diplomat. So, Jim, obviously this is good news because the plot was foiled. It's not good news that the Iranians are clearly not ratcheting down their efforts to maim and kill and sponsor terrorism wherever they can. But obviously they got thwarted, so good guys win.
This is a good martini in the sense that the bombing was stopped. I think it's very revealing and I think useful for clarity. when you catch an Iranian diplomat, probably either aiding and abetting or assisting terrorists in some way. This is actually not that shocking when you look at the long history of Iran being the world's largest state sponsor of terror, of sponsoring attacks going as far as bombing a Jewish center over in Argentina back in the 90s. A long while ago, we found out evidence that they were behind the bombing of Khobar Towers in Saudi Arabia. The Iranians really get around when it comes to terrorism. So the idea of them attempting to do so in Europe is not exactly shocking. I do find really fascinating. The foreign minister of Iran, Javad Zarif, tweeted, "How convenient, just as we embark on a presidential visit to Europe, an alleged Iranian operation and its plotters are arrested. Iran unequivocally condemns all violence and terror anywhere." And is ready to work with all concerned to uncover what is a sinister false flag ploy. So I look forward to Javad Zarif appearing on the Alex Jones show, Greg, that, anytime, it's a false flag. It's an elaborate plot to make it look like responses of terrorism if you just totally ignore all the other times the Iranian government sponsored terrorism. Since I'm having fun with historical allusions today, Greg, look, it's not like the Iranians would be anything less than fully respectful of all rules of diplomacy, embassies, international law, right?
Oh, yeah, they love embassies. They respect them greatly.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Well, the Iranians are still the bad guys. Nothing's changed on that front. Let's move to our fourth good martini, or maybe it's just a nice shot afterwards here. This is courtesy of Variety. After more than 2 decades at ABC News, Brian Ross and Rhonda Schwartz have decided to leave the company. ABC News President James Goldston said in a memo to staffers on Monday, quote, "Over the years, they have built a team of the best investigative journalists in our industry, and they leave behind an outstanding group that will continue to break stories for many years to come." Unquote. But Ross's reputation was sorely tested in December after he took to ABC in a special report and told viewers erroneously that Trump had directed Flynn, while Trump was still a candidate before the election, to make Russian contacts. The report prompted the Dow Jones Industrial Average to fall more than 300 points, and a tweet about it was reposted on Twitter tens of thousands of times before ABC clarified on World News Tonight that Trump's instruction came during the transition after he was elected. And, of course, Jim, we know that Brian Ross, that was not his only notorious incident. 6 years ago this month, when the Aurora, Colorado theater shooting happened, we got this nonsense from him.
I want to go to Brian Ross here, because, Brian, you've been investigating the background of Jim Holmes here, and you found something that might be significant.
There is a Jim Holmes of Aurora, Colorado page on the Colorado Tea Party site as well, talking about him joining the Tea Party last year. Now, we don't know if this is the same Jim Holmes, but it's Jim Holmes of Aurora, Colorado.
Yeah, we don't know. James Holmes, that's a really unique name, so it couldn't possibly be somebody different. Of course it was somebody different. Jim, Brian Ross is gone, and we're probably all the better for it.
I just want to pat ourselves on the back, Greg, because we figured out it was actually the Brian Ross and not some other Brian Ross who was fired by ABC. I'm sorry, let go.
Yes, we did a good job in that. Well, way to verify. Good work, Jim.
There we go. Hey, happy 4th of July, everybody.
Happy 4th to you, Jim. Happy 4th to all our listeners. We will be off, as I said, on Wednesday, back on Thursday for the next 3 Martini Lunch. Have a great day, everyone.